Other problems with decolonization in Africa, this one will be real short. We've gone over Ghana and Kenya. This is a problem in Nigeria, as there are 250 different ethnic groups inside Nigeria. We've got the Igbo and the Yoruba Christians in the south, and the Hausa Fulani Muslims in the north. And it is the Hausa minority that will kill 20,000 Igbo Christians. The Igbo try to create a small new country called Biafra in 1967, but they are like medieval sieged and starved out and had to surrender. The oil industry and the drug industry were big business inside of Nigeria. And the country took out loans from abroad that were taken to build industry. And as it does, it causes a massive rural to urban migration. It's like the Industrial Revolution inside Nigeria. But in the 90s, when oil prices dipped, the people of Nigeria did not make enough money to pay back their loans. So they are taken over and governed by corrupt military governments. By 1999, they have free elections, and things are still not going well in Nigeria to this very day. Once again, just like with Kenya and Ghana, we've got corrupt leaders who take their people's resources in return for becoming rich themselves. Congo, or Zaire, is probably the most exploited African country. From copper to slaves in the old school to rubber. The country of Belgium will grant independence in 1960. And in place is Patrice Lumumba, who is the prime minister. He is taking on a kind of, I would say, radical leader, Mosi Tshomba, who wants a separate country in the south. The country of Belgium supports him because they want the resources. And Prime Minister Lumumba will appeal to the United Nations for help. Well, in the military, here we have the corrupt military leader, Colonel Joseph Matubu. He will lead a coup. He will capture Prime Minister Lumumba, who will hand him over to Tshomba, who immediately executes him. When Tshomba executes Lumumba, Mobutu executes Tshomba and takes over, calling himself Mobutu Sese Seko. And he will pillage his country for the next 32 years for a sum of over $21 billion before being forced out, condemning his people to poverty to this day. In Zimbabwe, old Rhodesia, me brew, we have Robert Mugabe, who is a guerrilla leader who will take on Ian Smith, the white minority leader. Mugabe wants a black majority government, and he gets there in 1979. Mugabe will not take lightly to any opposition to his authority, so he will redistribute land to the peasants while destroying old European co-ops and massacring workers that help them. It's very similar to Kenya, destroying a massive, the second largest economy in Africa. Along with that, a massive drought hit and has since destroyed the country. South Africa has the apartheid minority government that will be started in the early 1900s with Great Britain. In 1959, the British focused on something known as the Homelands Movement, and the Homelands Movement was very similar to Native American reservations here in the United States. The African National Congress called for more black rights. There was an uprising at the place called Sharpsville, the Sharpsville Massacre, where poor Africans forced to live in these reservations were massacred, leading to the arrest of one young Nelson Mandela, who was imprisoned until the early 1990s. In the 1980s, Roman Catholic Bishop Desmond Tutu began to speak out on the ills of apartheid, and the movement will collapse in 1990. 1994, Nelson Mandela becomes the first black president of his country and keeps shocking everyone by showing tolerance, keeping many of the white governmental workers there to help a smooth transition. So problems for Africa are many. Racism, constant regional ethnic and religious genocide, trying to find an even distribution of wealth and technology, and getting wealth distributed to people who will use it for good, not for their own gain, and problems such as malaria, river blindness, dysentery, and drought conditions. All right, guys, that's it.